This is like one of the main reasons why I tell people to use FL Studio for beats. For the past couple of months, I've almost done this on like every single beat that I've made for good reason. I love doing it. Alright, what's good YouTube? So in this tutorial, I'm going to be covering by far what I think are the best mastering tips that every producer should know. So in this tutorial, I'm going to be going over the best EQ settings for your master, various tips on how to use effects on your master, unique tips on how to avoid beat block as well as get better references on your mixes, the best plugins and presets, common mistakes people make and how to avoid them, as well as various tips and tricks along the way. Also, if you want any of the sounds or samples that I use in this tutorial, there's a link in the description where you can download them completely free. Also, make sure to go check out the new drum kit that I dropped called Empire Volume 1. It contains a lot of really good sounds, and it also contains all the FL skins that I've been using in my videos, specifically all the custom ones. So for those who've been wanting that, I put them in the kit for you guys. Make sure to go check that out. There's a link in the description if you want to go get it. But yeah, onto the video. So let's start off by talking about the basics. Well, a lot of you may know what I'm about to say, but for those new producers, when you open FL Studio, what you want to do right away is remove this fruity limiter thing right away off of your master. I don't know why in God's name ImageLine still has this thing preloaded in FL, but it's literally the devil. Like, I can recall so many times when I made beats thinking like, oh, this sounds really good, it's leveled really well, and then just as I'm about to finish the beat, I go in and I realize, oh wait, I never took off the fruity limiter. Because what it's basically gonna do is it's kind of like gonna compress and like boost the levels of all your beats in kind of like a cheap way to make it so they don't sound like they suck as much as they really do. But when you make beats like this, like, one, you're never gonna be consistent, and two, and more importantly, you'll never like learn and improve. So what you want to do is come up to here to file and then go new from template and go to minimal and select basic but without the limiter, and as you can see now it's going to be gone. But every time you open FL, you're not going to have to automatically go in, or manually and remove it. Instead, it'll always be gone by default. Okay, so now from here what we're going to do is I'm just going to walk you through basically what I think is the best mastering presets. So you know what, I'm actually just going to explain this with a beat that I literally just made with my most like recent mastering preset on it. So the first thing you're going to want to add for your blank template is an EQ. Having a mastering EQ is essential in my opinion because it's just going to make your drums hit so much harder. And I know that some of you may be thinking, well, like, guys like Cash Money AP or Nick Mara, if any of you watch them stream, they don't have master EQs. They're big producers. I'm not yet at least, so why should we? And to answer that question, they don't really, because they don't need to, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't. And yeah, like, for those of you who watch my mixing tutorial, this is basically going to serve as like a shortcut for the specific EQs that we put on each individual drum sound. That being said, here's the preset that I use. Originally what I did, and for those who bought my Most Wanted Volume 1 drum kit, you'll notice that the original mastering preset I have saved in there looks something like this, with like a 4.2, I believe, 4.2 dB boost, along with this EQ right here. And the reason why I have this turned off and why I've been keeping it off for all the beats I've made since then is because beforehand I just made like tight beats, and when you're making tight beats, it's really all just about making them as loud as possible. But when you're sending beats out to actual artists, like, a huge thing that just changed everything for me was like, one of the beats that I sent to one of the artists, I was told that it sounds really good and they want to rap on it, but it just doesn't seem to have enough like head space is what they said. So I took those same beats and I just removed a bunch of the high end because I had literally an 8.4 dB boost on the high end to my beats. So I removed half of that and set it to like 4 dB. I sent the exact same beats back and they said they were way better. So long story short, you want to find a balance between raising the high ends, because the higher you raise them, the harder your drums are going to hit, but eventually you're going to raise them to a point where like there won't be space for the artist to hear themselves on the track. So yeah, that's why I have this one turned off, and by default I just use this parametric EQ and turn this up to about 4 dB right here. And the other thing I have is down here, I have a 1.2 dB increase from the 200 to 250 frequency range. This is usually the point where like the 808 and the kick are going to hit really hard and just stand out the most in the beat. So I just increased that a little, and that's basically it. And also with this EQ, one thing I'll do is like, I'll leave it on here, and like occasionally I'll turn it on and I'll just like increase it like a slight amount. Or if I'm making like a more like filtered beat, I'll just like decrease this a little bit and add like a filter effect. But yeah, I'll sometimes like increase this like 1 dB if I just want to make the drums hit a little bit harder. And yeah, here's with the beat that I literally just made about like 5 minutes ago. I'm gonna play you this beat like without these settings. So like if I turn everything off, it sounds like this with just like the drums. So yeah, but with the EQ on, it sounds like this now. So like, you know, as you can hear, it just sounds like a little bit more crispy and the drums just stand out a little bit more in the mix. So the second thing I want to talk about is the soft clipper. You know, this is like one of the main reasons why I tell people to use FL Studio for beats. I tried almost all the soft clippers out there, you know, like the T-Rex, the G-Clip, and none of them just sounded as good as the default soft clipper, because like what it's going to do is it's going to clip your drums to not go past 0 dB like most clippers, but it's also not going to like clip it as hard. That's why it's called soft clipper, you know, so it's going to make them hit harder like a normal clipper does, but it's also not going to like distort them like crazy to the point where it just kind of like messes with the drum sounds themselves. It just doesn't sound good overall. One thing to understand is that when you're making your mastering preset, put the soft clipper at the very bottom at all times, because you know, you want to make sure that you're clipping everything after applying all these effects, because for those who don't know, like specifically beginners, effects are applied from top to bottom, so these things up here are applied before these things down here. So like for example, if I were to have the same EQ preset that I was talking about, but I put the soft clipper up here, now like when I play the beat, if you look to the left over here, you can see that's still going past 0 dB, right? But like when I put the soft clipper down here, you can see it's not going past 0 dB and thus not distorting, which is what you want, right? I just find like it makes like a subtle difference and just makes those like drums hit a little bit harder and they just sound like a little bit tighter. So the next thing I want to talk about is transition effects. This is like a very common practice that you'll see used in like almost like every single beat, to be honest. There's always some sort of transition effect, and you know, when you're sending beats out to artists, you don't need to focus on this too much, but there's certain effects which like I do strongly recommend trying out for certain types of beats, like specifically things like gross beat or love filters. You know, if you want them to be affected by everything at certain points, again, a lot of you probably know this, but for those who don't, let's say I got this gross beat preset right here and I want it to like play for the intro. You just want to come over here, make sure you turn the volume all the way down, come over to here to like select like beat, so it doesn't like, it's not like super difficult to select a very specific region. Highlight this, and then it probably won't show for the sake of this tutorial, but you'll see the option when you right click this thing right here and you go to create automation clip, and now you'll have this thing right here, and you just want to right click to make these like 2 dots, and you just want to create this shape right here. So now when we play it, it'll have that kind of like a transition effect, you know, just to make the beat a little bit more interesting. You know, that's super basic, but this next thing really isn't. You may have been wondering like why I would have this preset on here as opposed to like a halftime or something like that. Well, the reason I have this on here is like, here's a little trick that I like to do with my mastering chain, is I'll leave certain things on it just for like when I'm getting like beat block or I'm just getting bored with the beat. What I'll do to completely like change it up is I'll put this like signature slow double gross beat preset that I invented that basically is just going to create like this kind of like skipping effect where it just gives it like a whole different groove altogether. And then what I'll do is I'll make the drums, and in very rare cases I'll make the melodies with this preset on, and then when I think it sounds good I'll take it off and then I'll listen to the beat from there. So like that's something I strongly recommend trying out, because if you're a guy like me who's making beats, like multiple beats every single day, you know, having things like this just to like keep yourself interested and not like have everything you do be super repetitive and boring, you're gonna get like more unique results when you do that, right? Speaking of, this next thing that I'm gonna show you is probably like my biggest secret weapon when it comes to making beats, because I know nobody is out here doing this. I like personally listening to a lot of slowed and reverb, like those like DJ Screw kind of stuff for songs, because like it's kind of like a lot of people will say like listening to a song on like slowed and reverb is like listening to the song for the first time all over again. And that's just the reason right there to why I use this, is because whenever I get bored or lost with the beat I'm making, I just turn on this pitch wheel right here and this reverb preset right here, and then I'll make the beat with that on, because it almost always going to give you like new ideas and perspectives of the beat. Also, I believe that like when you add reverb, you're stretching out the stereo and duration of all the sounds, which makes it easier to hear certain imperfections when it comes to like sound selection. But yeah, for the past couple of months I've almost done this on like every single beat that I've made for good reason. You know, I love doing it. Like for example, with this beat, I literally made this whole beat with this on the whole time and only turned it off when I finished the beat. So like originally what I was listening to was this. And then I turned it off, and now But you know, that's just like a cool little trick that you can do, and just a whole nother way you can look at like using the master effectively, not just as a way to like mix your beats, but to also keep things way more interesting for you as a producer. But yeah, especially if you're a new producer, I strongly recommend like trying this stuff out and applying it, because I swear if I was doing this stuff when I first started producing, I'd probably be a billionaire by now. Yeah, but apart from that, that's basically gonna be it. One thing I'd say is going forward, don't expect that you're just gonna put this on here and like all of a sudden all your beats are just gonna start sounding better. You know, no matter what you do, like a good mastering EQ and soft flipper and like all these effects that you put on your master, it's not gonna like save bad sound selection. So, you know, make sure you watch my tutorial on that if you need more help with that kind of stuff. Let me know in the description what kind of stuff you guys want to see me do next. Again, with more videos like this where I'm just kind of like ranting about things and just kind of, you know, going as I do, you know, I'm gonna be able to make more videos for you guys. So, you know, give me more ideas, because I'm gonna be uploading consistently from now on. And yeah, let me know what you thought of this tutorial, if it helped you guys. And yeah, make sure to like, subscribe, and peace. And yeah, as for common mistakes that people make, don't be putting like too many things on your master. I know I sound like a huge hypocrite in saying this,